Beyond the scorched red rock shores of the Red Sea lies the target of history's longest treasure hunt. It is a legendary realm known simply as Ophir, the biblical El Dorado. Ancient texts point to this exact region as the primary source of King Solomon's staggering wealth. According to the Old Testament, Solomon partnered with the Phoenician king Hiram of Tyre to dispatch a massive fleet. Every 3 years, those ships returned carrying a payload straining modern belief. Massive quantities of pure gold, silver, precious stones, sandalwood, ivory, apes, and peacocks. The sheer volume of that cargo suggests that Ophir operated as a sprawling commercial paradise. It served as a vital logistical hub, connecting the Mediterranean directly to the most distant corners of the ancient East. Yet we are left with a massive historical paradox. The wealth extracted from this empire funded the construction of antiquity's most famous structures, but the precise geographical coordinates of the empire itself vanished from the historical record. For over 3,000 years, explorers and kings scoured the earth looking for it. They wandered the vast deserts of Yemen and the coasts of Somalia, finding nothing but sand and mirages, eventually resigning Ophir to the realm of a theological fairy tale. Locating this lost supply chain remains the missing link in ancient geography. Resolving it would anchor the narratives of biblical history in a specific physical reality. The investigation into Ophir starts with the most heavily scrutinized texts on the planet, the Book of Kings and the Book of Chronicles. These ancient scriptures read less like mythology and more like meticulous accounting ledgers. This chart breaks down the exact quantitative claims made by the texts. The records state that Solomon's fleet extracted 420 ancient talents of gold in a single voyage. Translated into modern measurements, that equates to nearly 14 metric tons of pure gold arriving in one massive shipment. Rather than hoarding this wealth as currency, Solomon deployed it as a literal building material. Around 950 BC, this massive influx of gold directly funded the construction of the first temple in Jerusalem. Authentic historical descriptions detail laborers physically hammering glowing sheets of pure Ophir gold onto the temple's cedar framework. The inner sanctum, the Holy of Holies, was completely overlaid with the metal, from the floorboards to the massive statues of the cherubim. Jerusalem became the gleaming jewel of the Levant. But that concentration of capital was entirely dependent upon the brutal, back-breaking logistics of the Ophir supply chain. Following the death of Solomon, that vital supply chain was disrupted. A power vacuum emerged, and successive rulers grew desperate to replicate his immense wealth. According to the Book of Kings, King Jehoshaphat launched an ambitious, heavily funded plan. He ordered the construction of a massive new fleet, the ships of Tarshish, designed specifically to reopen the secret route back to Ophir. But before the expedition could even leave the Gulf of Aqaba, a violent meteorological event slammed into the port of Ezion-Geber. The storm obliterated the fleet, smashing the massive wooden ships against the rocky coastline. With the vessels destroyed and the kingdom's capital severely depleted, the expedition was immediately abandoned. That single shipwreck severed the physical link between the Mediterranean and Ophir. The trade route collapsed, the navigational coordinates were lost to the sea, and a thriving commercial empire faded back into a ghost story. For millennia, the search was led by theologians analyzing ancient scrolls. But in the 20th century, the methodology shifted. Modern exploration treats the scriptures as a series of data points to be tested directly against the raw topography of the Arabian Peninsula. The primary focal point for this scientific approach is the Arabian Shield. Here, geologists are finally cross-referencing the ancient texts with actual bedrock. Deep within that bedrock, archaeologists have uncovered extensive ancient mining infrastructure. The size and complexity of these physical ruins align with the massive industrial scale required by Solomon's historical ledgers. These inland mining complexes sit directly at the termination points of ancient wadi systems, natural dry riverbeds that provided the only viable paths for moving heavy ore from the mountains to the Red Sea ports. This topographical link makes the massive coastal shipping operation described in the texts geographically possible. The hunt for Ophir ends when modern geological surveying validates human memory, pinning the legend to the hard bedrock of the earth. For centuries, the source of King Solomon's wealth was viewed as a legendary mystery. Theologians and explorers treated Ophir not as a physical location, but as a mythical fairy tale. Early searchers relied on analog methods, blindly following ancient mariner tales in hopes of finding a magical paradise somewhere along the Red Sea coastline. The modern investigation has moved away from the interpretation of scripture and into the analytical laboratories of geology. An industrial operation of this magnitude leaves a permanent mark. It remains hidden only until technology is capable of reading its chemical and physical footprint. Locating Ophir is a process of identifying a massive geological anomaly that matches the data found in ancient records. In the 1970s, the Saudi Arabian government invited the United States Geological Survey to map the mineral resources of the rugged Arabian Shield. This USGS topographic map marks the site of Ma'ad ad-Dahab, the Cradle of Gold, located between Mecca and Medina. Geologist Robert W. Luce noted that the elevation lines on the map didn't describe a natural formation, but the remains of an exhausted ancient mine. The survey identified over 1 million tons of waste rock left behind by ancient miners. Miles of hand-carved subterranean trenches slice through the bedrock, indicating an industrial-scale operation that existed thousands of years ago. The volume of missing quartz rock matches the weight of the 420 talents of gold described in the Book of Kings. This physical evidence replaces the idea of a magical paradise with the reality of an ancient, large-scale mining operation. To understand who worked these mines, the investigation moved from macrogeology to the human-scale archaeology of the slag heaps. Excavations at the site revealed thousands of stone hammers and picks, all showing heavy wear from repetitive use against the quartz. Researchers dug into the deepest layers of the mine to find charcoal remnants from the original smelting fires. Radiocarbon dating of the charcoal proved that the peak of mining activity occurred precisely in the 10th century BC. This timeline aligns with the historical period associated with the reigns of King Solomon and King Hiram of Tyre. The date of these excavations matches the specific historical window required for the site to be the true Ophir. Establishing a date is only one part of the proof. Researchers also needed to test the atomic structure of the gold itself. Scientists used high-precision lead isotope analysis to create a geological fingerprint of the ore. Using mass spectrometers, researchers matched the unique chemical signature of gold artifacts found in the Levant directly to the ore from Ma'ad ad-Dahab. The date of these excavations matches the specific historical window required for the site to be the true Ophir. Establishing a date is only one part of the proof. Researchers also needed to test the atomic structure of the gold itself. Scientists used high-precision lead isotope analysis to create a geological fingerprint of the ore. Using mass spectrometers, researchers matched the unique chemical signature of gold artifacts found in the Levant directly to the ore from Ma'ad ad-Dahab. The deepest parts of the mine remain too dangerous for humans to enter, due to the structural instability of the ancient vertical shafts. Autonomous microdrones equipped with LiDAR and thermal imaging were deployed to navigate these dark, narrow passages. These drones mapped a steep labyrinth of mining veins that have been untouched for 3,000 years. The data gathered from both robotics and atomic chemistry has turned the hypothesis of Ophir into a verified geological fact. The legendary version of Ophir has been replaced by the data of forensic geology. The history is one of harsh, sweltering labor, where thousands of people hacked away at the quartz of the Arabian Shield. Today, the deep, silent trenches of the Cradle of Gold stand under the desert sun, a physical record of that massive industrial effort. The search for the City of Gold ends here, not in a magical paradise, but at the site of a complex ancient industry. These ancient scriptures often echo massive industrial operations, and King Solomon's wealth is now grounded in verifiable geological truth.